guys, today we're going to do harmonizing melodies. We'll first start with major scales. So the first thing you do is you look at your example and you see what your key signature is and therefore what key you're working in. So here we are in 1 flat. They've already labeled it for you, but 1 flat is F major, so that's why we're in F major. So now here's what you're going to do. You're going to start making snowmen out of the notes that are given in the key, okay? So this is how they figured it out. Most people like the treble clef, so I'm going to stick with the treble clef. So I'm going to take all of these notes and I'm going to start just making a little snowman. So make this a little bit bigger. So here I have my C, then I have my A, and then I have my F. So then it goes by what note is on the bottom, which is an F. And that's the name of the chord that I would use. That's the chord that would sound the nicest in this example. So it was an F chord. So I put my F on top. In an F scale, F is the first note, so the Roman numeral 1 goes here. Okay? Now I go to my next one, my next example. My next example has an F, it has a D, an F, which I already have, and it has a B. Now you'll notice that once I choose to put them on spaces, I have to put all of my notes on spaces. Okay, I could have also chose to put my notes on lines and I'd have the same outcome. So if I chose to put this F here, that would work, and a D and a B, it has the same outcome because my B flat would be on the bottom. See, B flat is my bottom note, B flat is my bottom note, so it doesn't matter which way you do it. So the chord that would fit nicely here is a B flat chord. And so for that, you're just going to simply write a B flat chord in, and you're going to do it using smooth voice leading. Okay, so I'm going to go B flat. So my chord is in bass clef would be, I'm just going to write it here for you. That's what it would be in bass clef, which is too far away. So I'm going to choose to do this, B flat. So you can see that I've written a second inversion. And then I need to know what number it is. So F, G, A, B flat. It's a 4. And the 4 is a capital, okay? And again, you don't have to do these working copies if you don't want to. You don't have to erase them. Oops. It just happened because I'm using an Apple Pencil, okay? The next key we go and we start again. So I'm going to snowman it. So I'm going to put C, B. Oh, I need a B on a space. That's way up here. C's already there, E and G. Now, what chord do you know that has 4 notes in it? I only know a 5-7, right? So it's going to be a 5-7. I might change my 7 in a minute, but it's going to be a C7. Now, to do a C7, I'm going to put it here so that you can see a little bit easier. Oops, that's correct. And oops, done. So to get from point A to point B on this one, these notes are too far away. So I'm going to have to make another inversion. So I'm going to this time do a first inversion for fun. Boop, 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 boop. Then I have to erase my 7s because if I left a 7, it would mean that I was in root position. So first inversion is the 6-5. Okay. And then I go to my last chord over here, and you can probably guess that you're going to want to end with another 1 chord, but let's just do this for the sake of doing it. So we have our F, and we have a C, we have an A, C, F. Yep, they're all there. And again, I'm ending with an F chord. So in bass clef, I have an F, A, C. I could leave it just like that in root position. And I put my 1. And that's how you harmonize. Okay? So now to complete this, you're going to want to do number 2. You do not have to do number 3. So those of you that have done the instructional video, please don't do number 3 because you will have already done it in this example. Okay? So you will go ahead and you will do number 2 in this example. You do not need to fill out number 1 unless you were kind of doing it along with me. All right? So now we go on to the next one. Now we're going to talk about passing tones and neighboring tones. So passing tones are when you go from one note that's part of the chord. So a C major chord, for example, is C, E, G. Okay. And here we have a note that doesn't belong in the chord. It's right in the middle, this D. Okay. So this is called a passing tone. A passing tone has to be alphabetical. So for example, this goes C, D, E. It can also be backwards alphabetical, like F, E, D. And a passing tone is a note that's not part of the chord. So it has to be by stepwise motion so that it goes up the stairs. So it's alphabetical, C, D, E. Okay, so that's what a passing tone is. An upper neighbor tone is when you go up to the next line and back down to the same tone. So this note is not part of the chord. So it goes from a C up to a D and back down to the same note again. So C, D, C. It could also be like a B, C, B, or D, E, D, or an F, G, F. That's an upper neighbor, okay? And you would use UN for upper neighbor. And a lower neighbor, you would do the same thing but in reverse. So really, is it the same? So you would go down 1 instead of up 1. So it would be B, A, B, or it could be C, B, C, or it could be D, C, D, but it will always end on the same tone. And again, middle note is the one that's not part of the chord. Okay, so a lower neighbor and a passing tone, sorry, I should have said this before, would be PT. Passing tone, okay? So now let's go ahead and do this. I'm so great with this Apple Pencil. All right. So you can almost see when you look at this where the passing tones and neighboring tones are, but here's how you will go about doing them if you can't actually see them. So I see it's an F chord. So I would draw out my F chord, F, A, C. And if it's not an F, A, or C, I would circle it and then say what it is. So this would be an upper neighbor. Okay. Doing the same thing over here, it's a B flat chord. So I write my B flat and I make a snowman. So if it's not a B flat, D, or F, I would circle it. And this would be an upper neighbor. So this is how you go about doing the whole thing. Okay? So for the next part, it can be a little bit confusing. Boop. So I'm going to go and show you the bottom part. So for the bottom part, you are going to look at your key signature, 2 flats. So for 2 flats, it's B flat. Oop. So now I'm going to plot notes. Now, understanding here that there's going to be passing tones and neighboring tones in the mix. So you're not going to be able to plot every single note. And you're saying, well, this is next to impossible. But is it? Because you can use some reasoning skills and say, okay, what do you know about music already? You know about chord progressions, and you know that you usually start with a 1 chord and you usually end with a 1 chord, and there's usually a 4 and a 5 in the middle. So I'm going to start here by assuming that it's a B flat chord. And I'm just going to write my B flat chord there. So if it's not a B flat, D, or F, I'm going to circle it. So again, I've made an assumption that since I'm in B flat major, I'm going to assume that my first chord is a 1 chord, B flat, D, or F. So if it's not a B flat, D, or F, I'm going to circle it. Then I look at the notes that aren't a B flat, D, or F, and these notes, in order for me to say that the B flat chord works, this note and this note have to be either passing tones or neighboring tones. If they're not passing tones or neighboring tones, you have to try a 4 chord or a 5 chord and see if that works. Okay, so let's look at this one. It goes up the stairs. It's in alphabetical order, B, C, D. So it is indeed a passing tone. So I'm going to label my passing tone in the middle of the staves. Let's look at this one. It goes F, G, F. So it goes up 1 note and back down to the original note. So that is an upper neighbor. Okay, so now I can go ahead and I can put my B flat chord, and I can write my B flat in bass clef. And I can put my Roman numeral 1 on the bottom. And it's in root position, so that's all I have to do. Then I will go ahead and I will do the next chord. So again, we look at this. Remember the chord progressions that you've worked a lot with are 1, 4, 5, 7, 1. So in the key of B flat major, B, C, D, E, this should be an E flat chord. So let's see if E flat's going to work. So I'm going to just draw an E flat chord here. And let's see if it's not an E flat, G, or B, I'm going to circle it. Wow. That's it. E flat, B, G. Yeah, that's it. So this is a lower neighbor. Now I can go and do my smooth voice leading. So I'm going to write it in bass clef just here. And I'm going to say, all right, let's do a first inversion. Actually, I'm going to do a second inversion. I lied. No, let's do a first inversion for fun. No, second inversion works better, sorry. 6, 4. And this is a 4. Now I'm going to go on to the next one. And I'll say, okay, I've used my knowledge from previous lessons, and I know that I'm using a 1, 4, 5, 7, 1 chord progression most likely. So the 5 chord in the key of B flat major, B, C, D, E, F. So I'm going to write out my F, and I'm going to add an extra note on top because it's always good to have the 5, 7 instead of just a 5 chord because it's an extra note added to the mix. Now, if it's not an F, A, C, E, I circle it. And in this case, there isn't an E, so I don't need to make it a 5, 7 chord. Oops. I could if I wanted, it wouldn't be wrong. And so now I'm going to put my F down here, F, A, C, and it's an F chord, which is a 5. And I'm actually going to leave it a 5/7. And there's a reason, because I don't want to confuse you about the inversion numbers at this point. So I'm going to leave it that way, and it's FACE. So I'm going to take and make this a second inversion. Then I have to label my passing tones and my upper neighbor. And then, of course, my final one is most likely going to be a B flat chord. So if it's not a B flat, D, or F, I'm going to circle it. Yeah, so we're ending with a B flat chord. So I can end it in root position. Okay. So I don't know if you'd like to take a screenshot of that in its entirety. Try to get it there for you, right there. Okay. And moving on. And of course, next page. Oop, forgot what app I was in. Now we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about minor keys and minor chord progressions. So the thing that I need to tell you about in this is that when you're doing in a minor key and minor chord progressions, is that the 1 is no longer capital, it's lowercase. And that, remember, a lowercase 1 is minor. And the 4, actually we're not going to use the minor 7th for this, we're just going to do a major 7th. And you will notice that the 1 is minor, the 4 is minor, and the 5 is major again. Okay? The other thing you're going to notice, and this is how you tell if an example is in major or minor usually and moving ahead, is by an accidental. So the 7th note is going to be raised in the 5/7 chord. Okay, so this is important. So here's what we do. We go and we write A minor. So we use our, oops. And then I gotta go here, open that up again, boop. There we are. There we go. So I have my key of A minor down here, and I want to find out what it is for a major key signature. So I have to use my keyboard, and so I count up 3 half steps. I go 1, 2, 3. So that means that I'm using the key of C major. Okay, so for C major, there's no sharps and no flats. So I'm going to make my chord progression here, 1, 4, 5, 7, 1. And then I'm going to put in my key signature, which is nothing. Now the first note of A minor is just A minor. Okay, the 4th note, A, B, C, D minor. And the 5th note is E. 7, and then A minor. So you do this exactly the same way that you did the major. The only difference is when you write your 5/7 note. So if I'm doing my E chord and I'm doing my 5/7, the second note from the bottom, which is the 7th note of the chord, of the scale rather, is going to be raised up a half step. That's the only difference. So if it happened to be flat from the key signature, it would become a natural. That's the only thing that you have to keep in mind. And that's the only thing I really wanted to show you from this lesson. And that's why, moving forward, that you will see that things are raised for the minor key is because we use the harmonic minor version. And it's mostly going to be found in the 5/7 chord. So that's another clue. You might also want to take note of these, that the 1, when you're doing a minor key, and the 4 are lowercase. Okay? So we're almost done with these lessons, but now I want to show you the difference. So if you're doing harmonizing using a minor key, you'll see this example, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, whoa, key signature has 2 flats, but what the heck's with these sharps? And it's a consistent sharp, right? The F is sharp every time all the way through it. So now I have to find out what key I'm in, and I know it's minor because there's a consistent accidental that's raised, okay? So I look and I see 2 flats. 2 flats is B flat. So now I want to find out what minor key I'm in, okay? So I'm going to go down 3 half steps. 1, 2, 3. So I'm in G minor. So I'm going to start it the same way. I'm going to try it and see if a 1 chord will work. And a 1 chord in G minor is G, B, D. Yep, that'll work, and that'll be my passing tone. Okay, and then this would be called G. You have to put a lowercase m, and you have to put a lowercase 1, and then you would write your G chord the same. Okay, looking at the next one, I'm going to assume that it's a 4. G, A, B, C. C, and remember the 4 was minor. So let's try a C minor and see if that's going to work. So I'm going to put it here because it'll save time. C, E, G. If it's not a C, E, or G, I'm going to circle it. And those are both lower neighbors. Now I'm going to do my smooth voice leading. Like that. Again, it's minor. I put my 6/4 up here also. Then I'm going to assume that this is the 5/7. Okay? And the 5/7 would be the D, G, A, B, C, D. Okay? And then I'm going to write my D, F, A, C. I'm stacking my notes. If it's not a D, F, A, C, I'm going to circle it. And those are all passing tones. So now I'm going to do my smooth voice leading. And it's a 6/5 that I've put, which is first inversion. And then, yes, you've thought it. This is going to be a 1 chord at the end. And again, we're in G minor, or we think it's going to be. See if it works. G, B, D. Yes. Simple as pie. Now, don't let this one confuse you when you go to work on it. It just means that you might have 2 chords at the ends that are 1 chords. Okay, so there's my subtle hint. And again, this is in a minor key, so make sure that you understand that, right? So that's it for my lessons on this. And all you have to do is finish number 2 on this page. and the one other question. So there's actually only 2 questions, and I'm going to cut and paste them and put them in. Maybe I'll put those in one page for you. Okay? Have a great day.